Hello everybody, I am Kathryn Lavery and the chair of ARDASH, and we are here at the Unity Centre in Rotherham this morning for our November board meeting. It's the 23rd if you want to know exactly where we are. So just to give you some highlights out of what was a very energetic, deep thinking board this morning, and everybody taking part, lots of big discussions going on. I think it's useful for you to know that the board of this trust takes its job very seriously. So what have we been talking about this morning? We started with a staff story from one of our very successful apprentices, and my thanks to Chris and to Jade, who works in the apprenticeship unit, for coming in. It was so good to hear of somebody who's used the apprenticeship process to progress their career. And we want to do a lot more of that, so you'll see that becoming a real theme within the trust. Really, what struck me this morning is two or three things. A big debate about where we are with finance. We took our month 7 report, but you'll have read in the press the situation with NHS finance is very stressed, and we are part of South Yorkshire ICB, and we will play our part properly in making sure that financial targets are hit. But it's a tough place to be. And the board considered that very seriously this morning, and there was lots of very good debate and an acknowledgement that our Chief Executive and Director of Finance are dealing with this on a daily basis, really. We had a very interesting debate on what does productivity really mean. You'll equally have read in the press a lot that we are being held accountable for increases in our productivity. What does that really mean for this trust, mental health and community? What does that entail? What is it that we need to see that makes us confident that we are being as effective and efficient as possible, and that productivity means something rather than just it's a buzzword that's going around that says the NHS must increase its productivity. So very early start to that work. It'll be much more visible in the spring. But the board this morning started that debate about, well, if we're going to do increased productivity, what does that actually mean for our patients and our communities? The real meat of today's agenda was around 3 big reports about what we call responsiveness. Now that's about patient-centred care, and a really important report from Sheila Lloyd, our Director of Nursing, about patient-centred care and what that means for our patients. So we really got into the heart of this, and it's a CQC report. We're looking at the CQC areas they look at us on, but for the board it was about not so much are we doing the very best to get us the very best CQC report. Are we doing what is really best for our patients? And I thought that was very insightful of the board this morning. So we started with what does patient-centred care really mean? Very important report from Sheila. And then went on to a report from Richard, our Chief Operating Officer, on waiting lists. And I said it in the board, and I'll say it to you, I think this is absolutely top of everybody's list in our communities. With the NHS, it's what everybody wants to know. What are you doing about waiting lists? It's complicated, we're not going to solve it overnight, but a really important report from Richard this morning about the work that is starting. What do waiting lists mean? In that, who's on them? Are some people on them that are more serious than others? Are our waiting lists, are they indicative of the communities that people live in? Are more people from poor communities on waiting lists than people from more affluent communities? Have we got more people with an ethnic background on our waiting list? So there's lots of work to do, but we are determined to solve it. So it won't be overnight, but what we are absolutely determined to do is to get our waiting lists into a manageable place. And finally, to look at the patient safety incident reporting framework. PSIRF, I've finally got my head around the acronym. We discussed it a lot at our last board meeting. The policy and plan is here this morning. It completes that trio of reports that is really around how we serve patients and communities. There's nothing more important to an NHS board, is there, than looking at those things, and it's been a great debate this morning. We finished with a couple of reports around our workforce, equally important, around our work on equality, diversity and inclusion. Work is progressing. We know we've got more to do, but there's a real sense of change in the organisation, and I'm grateful for that, to go to the gender pay gap and how we can start to move to that number being 0 between the pay of men and women in our organisation. There's all sorts of complications as to why there is a gender pay gap. It's not simply that we choose to pay women any less than men, of course it isn't. But we will take that work forward, and so it was a great end to the day, really, to look at those 2 issues that so affect our workforce. If you want to hear the whole thing, it'll be online. You can listen to the whole board meeting if you so wish. But thank you to listening for my little video, and we'll see you all again in the new year. And I suppose I ought to say Merry Christmas. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.